Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 8. So Module 8 is the halfway point for the semester, which means at this point you need to be paying attention to your midterm grade. Look at your grade, see whether or not it's about where you would like it to be. And if it's not, think about what you can do for the rest of the semester in order to improve it if you need to, or maintain it if you need to. So just be thinking about that. A lot of students don't realize you click on that grades tab, it gives you a list of everything that you've turned in and then the points that you've earned for each one. Make sure that you're paying attention to that, because if there's something that was submitted incorrectly, I'll put a 0 in there, which means that you have to go in and see that, and I'll tell you why in the comments, but you need to see that and resubmit if you need to, in order to get points for that assignment if you didn't submit it in a form that I can view it. So make sure that you are paying attention to those grades under the grades tab. And the other thing that happens at midterm is you have the opportunity to take the midterm survey, which is an extra credit opportunity, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So the main thing that you're doing in Module 8 is taking the second exam for the Greek myths. And so we're right at the end of our Greek myths. Half of the semester is Greek myths. The other half of the semester will be the Nordic myths, and then the just kind of some world myths in general, some myths from other places that we'll be able to make some connections with. So, but for right now, we're just going to wrap up everything that we've discussed for the Greek myths and the Greek heroes in particular. So as you can see, we've got stuff that looks very familiar to you. One more reading for this assignment, or for this module, and that is Oedipus, which is a story that most students are familiar with, probably have heard of Oedipus, or Oedipus Rex, which is the title of the play that was written by Sophocles. Might have also heard of an Oedipal complex and some of the stuff that Freud came up with after looking at this story. So this story is a little bit more isolated than some of our other heroes. We don't see as much crossover with some of the other hero stories, and his story is fairly straightforward. Now, Sophocles did write 3 plays, and so this chapter focuses primarily on Oedipus Rex, which is the first one, but we also have a little bit of a discussion of Oedipus at Colonus, which is the sequel, if you will, the play by Sophocles, and then Sophocles also wrote Antigone, so there's a little bit about her in there as well. I have 2 videos in here. If you want something entertaining to watch, this is a great one. It is a very dramatic rendition of what it might have looked like on the Greek stage. A lot of masks, as you can tell just from the thumbnail here. Really fantastic direction. One of the things to remember about the Greek stage, which I think is interesting, is that most of the action would have happened off stage. So like the dramatic deaths are off stage, and then it's just the characters coming back on and telling everyone that they saw it. And that was kind of how the Greeks would have to stage their plays, because they didn't have special effects like we do now. So it's just a really interesting way to portray this tragedy. And of course, Sophocles was known as a great dramatist. His tragedy was one of the ones that has survived since that time period, and was greatly influential on a lot of the tragedies that came afterward, including Shakespeare. I also have in here another Thug Notes video. This one I think is even more entertaining than the one about Odysseus, but if you are enjoying his viewpoints on the readings, feel free to watch that one. The other thing that I have in here is just kind of a rundown of all the chapters that we've covered, basically 14 to 22 in the textbook since the last exam. So the first Greek exam covered the Pantheon, the history, Apollo, Hermes, all of that. This exam is just going to cover the heroes. So we've got it divided out for you. When you take this, go through these chapters, make sure that you have the characters separated in your head, because that is probably the hardest part, is remembering like which hero was fathered by Zeus, and which hero was fathered by Poseidon, and which hero didn't have any gods as a parent, and that kind of thing, and which hero fought which monster, because all of them are a little bit different. And they have so many crossovers and similarities that it's hard to keep them apart. So make sure that, if you need to make a chart for yourself, do that. Make flashcards, whatever you need to be able to remember them. You do have an unlimited amount of time to take the exam, but I will caution you that if you want to make sure that you can do it in one sitting. So sit down with some time and make sure that you go through the whole thing just in one sitting. You can't save it and start it again. So make sure that you are leaving yourself enough time to take it. I would guess it will take you an hour to an hour and a half to finish the exam. Depending on how well you've studied, it might take you longer. So just keep in mind, before you start the exam, it is a one-time only exam, and if something happens, you will have to contact me immediately, and then you'll get different questions if I reset the exam for you. So the questions are primarily multiple choice and true false. They are pulling from pools of questions that were already given to you in a lot of the module quizzes. So you may see a question that you've already had before, and you'll probably have new questions as well. There are also 4 short answer questions, and since you are currently watching this video, I'm going to give you a little hint as to what those questions will be about so you can better prepare for them. The first one is about the hero journey, having you explain Joseph Campbell's theory and why that can be used to look at the hero myths, why it's so important to discuss the hero myths. The second question is about those pesky theories that we've been working with all semester, those ones in the back of the textbook, chapter 25, where it covers theories like allegories, the historical allegory and the physical allegory and all that. So you're going to pick one of those, you're going to explain it, and then you're going to explain some myths that show at least one myth that shows that, or that we can use that theory to interpret it with. The easiest ones would be looking at Oedipus and the Oedipal complex, so the Freudian theories, and then also the allegories are pretty easy too. The historical allegory and the natural allegory both have some very obvious myths that you should be able to use for that. Keep in mind that the example that I'm looking for is from the Greek hero stories that we have looked at. The third question will be about miasma or blood pollution. That is a situation where a character has typically killed someone. Usually it has to be someone that they're related to, but it could also be someone where they were a guest in their house, or the person that they killed was a guest in their house, and so they've caused themselves it's sort of like a curse that they've gotten, and then that they have to do something in order to get rid of that blood pollution. So I'm looking for examples of that. And then the last question is about fate and prophecy. That is, we have quite a few stories where there is a prophecy made. The hero typically tries to do something in order to get out of that prophecy. So they may abandon their baby or lock their daughter in a basement room or something like that. But almost always their action is what brings about the fate to begin with. So the idea that you can't escape fate, that's going to happen anyway. And typically, even though it may happen later on, it's always resolved. That prophecy will always end up coming true. So there are quite a few examples of that in our myths as well. So you'll be providing some examples of that. The last thing in the module is the midpoint survey. This is just a chance for you to give some feedback on the course, see if there's anything. It's an anonymous thing, and I typically try to look at them just to see if there's anything that I can improve on for the second half of the semester. If there is something missing that you would really like to see, that's helpful. I'm the only one who looks at this, so it's not going to go anywhere other than to me, but I can look at those typed responses if you have any suggestions for me, and you get 5 points extra credit for taking it. So that has been a video for Module 8. Hopefully you're doing well. If you have any questions, make sure you send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.